Okay, so we're just going to do a short recording, a wrap-up recording of one of the sections here, which is the to do with the number of occurrences. If I can just find it here. So we have two of them here, the number of occurrences and the number of occurrences of letters. So we'll just start with the first one here. Write a program to take in 20 integers between 0 and 9 inclusive and put them in an array. You can either have the program ask the user for the numbers, or you can generate them using the rand function. So I'll show you how to do it using the rand function. Now determine how many zeros are in the array of numbers, then how many ones, and all the way up to 9. So how many twos, how many threes, how many fours, and we've given an example there underneath it, right? So we'll just open my dev C here. And we have a program just kind of opened here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an array of numbers. Let's just call it numbers because we've no better name for it at the moment, and we said we'd do 20 of them, so 20 of them. And I'm going to create some other variables here as well. I'm going to create I'll create some more in a moment, as and when I need them I'll go back up and show you what to do. But for the minute, what we're going to do is we're going to fill up the array of numbers with random numbers between 0 and 9. So to do that, I'm going to use a for loop. Sorry, don't want to use that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say numbers I is assigned the rand function. Now the rand function will generate random numbers between 0 and, if I remember correctly, 37,568. I could have that slightly wrong, but it's 2 to the power of 15 is what it will do as an integer. Now if we want to limit it to just numbers between 0 and 9, what I can do is I can use the modulus operator, modulus 10, to give me the remainder after it's been divided by 10, the integer remainder, which means that we can't have a larger remainder than 9. So 0 to 9 are the possible remainders, and they will go into numbers. And just to prove that to you, what I will do is I'll just do a quick printf of the numbers. Okay. Okay, and we can see the numbers that have been created there. And they start, you can see there, they start at the top, there's 20 of them, and there are no numbers outside of 0 to 9 in that list, as we can see. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go through the array, and I must do this after the array is already built. So, or it's better that I do anyway. So I'm going to do a for loop again, and it's going to do this. I probably could do it while I'm running the loop, but I want to do it separately just to show you, so that you keep the two pieces of information apart. So again, I'm going to run through all of the numbers. What I'm going to do is follows. I'm going to make another array. I'm going to call it H, and H stands for histogram in this particular case. And because we have numbers between 0 and 9 that we're looking for, I'm going to put 10 elements in it. So I want to count how many there are in each case. I want to zero that whole array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this this bit of syntax here, which is put the 0 in curly brackets. That means that the first value will go to 0, and then all the rest of the values will follow suit, and they will also be put to 0. That's important because we want to start at 0 for each case. Now here's a very special piece of code that I'm going to use in order to do this. I'm going to say H. I'm going to open the braces, and then inside it I'm going to put numbers I. And then finally I'm going to put plus plus on the end of it. Now this is a very special piece of code. So the first bit in here, which is this section here, is just the numbers I. So as we go through the 20 numbers, that will be whatever number is stored in the array at that point. As we know, all of those numbers must be between 0 and 9. So what will occur inside this brace is a number between 0 and 9. Let's say it's the number 5. What will happen then is you'll have H with 5 in brackets and you'll say plus plus. That will go to position number 5 in the H array and increment it by 1, which basically says that the number 5 has occurred in the numbers array, and so I'm going to take note of that and increment it by 1. If another 5 occurs later on, then I will increment it again, and this will in its turn go through all 20 numbers and increment the position in the histogram array for every time a number has occurred. And what I can do then is I can do a separate for loop, this one only to run the length of the histogram array. So sorry, I 0, I smaller than 10, because that's how many items are in the histogram array. So I'm going to say %d occurs %d times, and then a new line. And what I'm going to do then is %d is the first one, which is the value I as it occurs, and then I'm going to put hi. So I will literally just tell us the numbers between 0 and 9. So it's going to print out in vertically 0 to 9. As it does each one of them, let's say at 0, it says 0 occurs a certain number of times, and that's we move to that position in the H array and find out how many times that position was incremented. And that will then tell us how many times that occurred within the numbers array. Okay, so we can see there that 0 occurs 1 times, 1 occurs 4 times, 2 occurs 2 times, 3 doesn't occur at all, 4 occurs 3 times, 5 occurs 3 times, 6 occurs just once, 7 occurs 3 times, 8 occurs 2 times, and 9 occurs 1. And if you count up all these numbers here vertically, they should add up to exactly 20, because that's the number of numbers that we have in the array. Just take a quick scan through to make sure it's correct. There are no 3's in that list, and for that reason then we know that that there shouldn't be a 3 does not occur at all. If we check something like the number 1, it supposedly occurs 4 times. Well, there's 1 at the top. There's another one, and then there's 2 more here, one after the other. Okay, so it's certainly working correctly. Now, what we have to do for our next program is we have to determine something about the number of letters. So let's just take a quick look at that. Write a program that takes in or randomly generates 20 letters of the alphabet and put them in an array. To keep things simple, put them all as lowercase letters. Now determine how many occurrences of each letter of the alphabet there are and print this out. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this as under a new name. I just put an L on the end of it so that I know it's for the letters one. Okay. I can't remember how many letters I said to put in it. Did I mention it? 20 letters. Okay. So same as we had before. What I'm going to do with this one, instead of randomly generating them, I'm just going to write them in. I just need to make sure that I get the right number. Now I could randomly generate them. It wouldn't be an issue, but I just want to show you the 2 different ways. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I'll close that off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this 21, and the reason for that is that I want to be able to have a null terminating character on the end of. Do I need it? I have a feeling it's going to create it anyway. So I'm just going to make it 21 just to be on the safe side. Now, The histogram in this case should not be 10 because we don't just have 10 different options, we have 26 different options because we're taking in all the lowercase letters. Again, I'm going to put that to 0. I'm going to change, instead of int numbers, I'm going to put that as character because it's holding characters. However, the H array there is not. It's going to be counting the number of occurrences, so it's an integer it should hold. Now, I could get away with having it as characters as well and hold a number in it, a small number, but I'd prefer to do it this way. Right, so I don't need the random here. I'm actually going to change this from numbers. I'm going to change it to letters so that it makes a bit more sense. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out the letters just to show them to you. %C, and we'll start with that. I'm going to, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to comment out the rest of the code because I have a feeling it would cause an error if not. And now, unfortunately, I hit the wrong button just there, which meant that I ended the recording. So hopefully I'm going to lash this recording onto the end of it. I hit F10 instead of F11, which I was trying to hit. So I'm going to just hit F11 this time, which should hopefully work, and run my program. Okay, so I've printed out the letters there, and as you can see by looking at them, there are 20 letters, and there are none of them that are not lowercase alphabetic letters, so that's working fine. Now, what I want to do is I want to use the same thing as I used earlier, but with some minor changes. Firstly, instead of numbers, I obviously have letters, so I want to change that first. Okay. But the problem is that letters I, as I go through it, will pick out an individual character. So let's say it picks out the character A. Now the character A is not the same as the number 0. It has a different number if we were to look at the ASCII character set. So let's just have a quick look at the ASCII character set. I think I have it back here somewhere. Here we are. And if we look at the letter A, that's the lowercase letter A, we see that it has the number 97 associated with it. And the problem with that is that if we go back to my program here, if I come up with the letter A, it's going to put a 97 here in the square brackets around H. H only goes from 0 up to 25 because it has 26 elements in it, so therefore number 97 is going to be way outside that range and it's not going to count it. What I really need to do is I need to have some way of modifying the letters I. And what I'm going to do is I could subtract 97 from it. That would actually solve the problem. That would mean that B would go to a value of 1, C would go to a value of 2, and so on. But better than that, because it's not always very easy to remember the number 97, and because it may not make sense to somebody else that would look at it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract a small a from it. That's the same as subtracting 97, and that will do it for any of the letters. So it doesn't matter if it's the letter Z, we'll subtract a from it. That'll take 97 away from it, and we'll leave it as a number, as the number 25. So it'll go from 0 to 25, and we'll increment that, and that will work fine. Okay. So the final thing we do then is we run through, instead of 10 this time, we run through 26 letters. Okay, so we say that %C occurs %D times. This time we put the I there and put the HI over here. Now, the problem is that this will now print it incorrectly, and I'll just show you what it'll print just so that we see it. Give me a bit of a shouted at me a bit there. You can hear from the thing. So it told me how many times each of the ones occurred. That's fine, but the problem is that we can see complete gobbledygook here rather than the actual letters. And the reason for that is that we're printing out I as a character, so that'll go from 0 to 20, and those characters in the ASCII chart don't really mean a whole lot. Let's have a look at them. We can see 0 up to 20. They have all sorts of strange meanings, like the null terminating character and the end of transmission and so on. Not particularly useful to us in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I plus A. In other words, undone what I did earlier, so that it prints out the right letter for us when we do it. So we can now see that the A occurs 0 times, the B occurs 0 times, all these. E occurs once, G occurs once, H occurs once. So let's just have a quick glance up at the list and make sure that that's working. And we shouldn't be able to see a letter A in our first set here, which I don't, or a letter C anywhere in it. But I should find one letter E, and I should find two letters of I. So let's check for I. I see two I's, and do I see an E? I do see just one E. So that seems to be working correctly. Okay, so that's the little trick with regard to using letters and so on, that you've got to be able to move them to be the correct position, because the number they represent as an ASCII number, as an ASCII character, it does not go from 0 to 25, and we'd like it to in order to work properly with our array that we've made in order to do our counting of occurrences. Okay, so finish with that.